The scream was silent. Michael Turner's mouth was wide open, his eyes stretched in fear, his face red with pain, but no sound came out. Not a whisper. Not a breath. Nothing. The guard stood in front of him, calm and still, watching the silent scream like it was nothing special. Rule violation, the guard said flatly. Attempted speech. Michael's hands shook as metal cuffs locked around his wrists. His heart hammered so hard it felt like it might break his ribs. He had only said one word. Just one. Hey. That single word had broken the most important rule inside ADX Florence. No talking. No contact. No sound. Red lights flashed above the cell door. Somewhere deep inside the prison, alarms began to hum, not loud, but low and heavy, like a warning growl. Michael was dragged out of his cell, his feet barely touching the floor. Other cells lined the hallway, but there were no faces at the doors. No eyes. No voices. Because the men inside knew better. Inside ADX Florence, speaking was dangerous. And Michael had just done the one thing no one was ever allowed to do. As the hallway doors slammed shut behind him and the air grew colder, Michael realized something terrifying. This prison was not built to punish people. It was built to erase them. And now, it was about to erase him too. 3 years earlier, Michael Turner still believed silence was harmless. He had been sent to ADX Florence after helping plan a series of violent crimes across state lines. He was not the leader, not the loud one. He was the thinker, the planner, the man who spoke quietly and listened carefully. That was why the court sent him here. ADX Florence sat alone in the mountains of Colorado, far from cities, far from noise, far from help. From the outside, it looked simple, gray concrete buildings, high fences, guard towers, razor wire cutting the sky. But inside, it was different. Inside, sound disappeared. Michael remembered his first day clearly. The bus ride had been long and silent. Every inmate wore chains. No one spoke. Guards with hard faces watched them through dark glasses. When the doors opened, cold air rushed in. "Welcome to ADX Florence," a guard said. "You will not speak unless told to speak. You will not touch another inmate. You will not see another inmate's face." Michael thought it was a scare tactic. He was wrong. His cell was small, concrete on all sides, a bed made of stone, a desk carved from the wall, a toilet made of steel. No bars, no window you could reach, just a narrow slit of glass high above, letting in a thin line of light. Food arrived through a slot in the door. Medical checks happened through glass. Guards spoke through speakers, never face to face. Michael learned quickly. Talking brought punishment. Looking too long brought punishment. Tapping, scratching, whispering, punishment. Most days, no one said a word. Not the inmates. Not the guards. Not the walls. Silence ruled everything. At first, Michael counted time. He counted meals. He counted steps in his cell. He counted his own breaths. Then he stopped. Days blurred together. Weeks vanished. Months sank into nothing. Sometimes, he forgot what his own voice sounded like. The silence changed him. It changed everyone. Some inmates cried silently. Some stared at walls for hours. Some lay still, like they were already dead. Michael told himself he was strong, that he could handle it, until the tapping started. It came late one night. Tap, tap, tap. Michael sat up in his bed, heart racing. He froze. ADX Florence was silent by design. Any sound was dangerous. The tapping came again. Slow, careful, from the wall. Michael pressed his ear to the concrete. He held his breath. Tap, tap. It wasn't random. It was a pattern. Michael's mind raced. Someone was trying to communicate. That alone could mean years added to their sentence. Worse, he pulled back from the wall. He didn't want trouble. The tapping stopped. Days passed. Then weeks. Michael thought it was over. Until one morning, he found something on his food tray. A scratch. Just a small mark. Barely visible. But it wasn't from the kitchen. It was deliberate. A message. Michael stared at it for a long time. His hands trembled. Someone had found a way to break the silence. That night, the tapping returned. Michael didn't answer. The tapping grew slower. Softer. Then stopped. The next day, another scratch appeared. This time, it looked like a letter. Michael felt fear twist in his chest. ADX Florence was built so inmates could never talk. But someone was trying anyway. Michael knew he should ignore it. But silence had already taken so much from him. Late that night, when the prison felt especially dead, Michael did something dangerous. He tapped back. Once. The sound echoed loudly in his ears, even though it was barely audible. He waited. Nothing happened. No alarms. No guards. Then, 3 taps returned. Michael's heart nearly stopped. They were talking. Not with voices, but with sound. Days passed. The taps became messages. Slow. Careful. Simple. Still here. Don't forget. Listen. Michael learned the man's name through the wall. Daniel. Daniel had been inside ADX Florence longer than almost anyone else. He had survived years of silence by listening, by remembering, by refusing to let his mind go empty. They think silence kills ideas. Daniel tapped once. It doesn't. It sharpens them. Michael should have stopped. He didn't. For the first time in years, he felt human. Then came the mistake. It was small. Stupid. A guard passed Michael's cell during meal delivery. Michael hadn't spoken in years. The word slipped out before he could stop it. Hey! The tray froze. The guard turned slowly. Michael knew instantly what he had done. Red lights flashed. Doors locked. Silence broke, not with sound, but with consequences. Now, as guards dragged Michael down the freezing hallway, he realized the truth. ADX Florence was not just a prison. It was a weapon, and he had just given it a reason to fire. The door ahead opened. Darkness waited inside, and whatever was about to happen next would decide if Michael Turner would ever hear another human voice again. The darkness swallowed Michael. The door closed behind him with a deep metal thud that felt final, like a coffin lid. The sound echoed once, then vanished. The silence returned instantly, thick and heavy. Michael stood still. His heart raced so fast it made his chest hurt. This cell was different. There was no light slit, no soft hum from the vent, no small comfort of knowing the outside still existed. This cell had nothing. The air was colder. The walls were smoother, like they had been polished to a raised touch. Even the floor felt wrong beneath his bare feet. A voice came from nowhere. Inmate Michael Turner, it said. Calm. Cold. Not human enough. You violated Rule 1. Michael opened his mouth, then stopped himself. Fear slammed into him. He shook his head instead. Speaking is forbidden, the voice continued. ADX Florence exists to remove influence. Sound creates influence. A light snapped on above him. Bright. Painful. Michael squinted. In front of him was a single metal chair bolted to the floor. Thick straps hung from its sides. Sit, the voice said. Michael hesitated. The straps moved slightly on their own, pulled by hidden machines. Michael sat. The straps wrapped around his chest, arms, and legs. Tight. Not enough to hurt. Enough to control. The light grew brighter. For 3 years, the voice said, you followed the rules. Silence preserved you. Michael swallowed. Then you chose sound. The chair tilted back slowly until Michael was staring at the ceiling. A screen slid down in front of his face. It showed a cell. Not his. Another man sat inside it. Thin. Pale. Eyes wide and empty. Michael knew that face. Daniel. Daniel Reed, the voice said. Your source of contact. Michael's breath caught. They think we don't notice patterns, the voice continued. But silence makes patterns louder. The screen zoomed in on Daniel's face. He was isolated deeper because of you. The screen changed. Daniel's cell was smaller. Darker. No edges. No corners. Just smooth concrete like a box. He can no longer tap, the voice said. He can no longer hear. Michael's chest burned. He tried to speak. He couldn't. You will not attempt contact again, the voice said. If you do, you will lose more than your voice. The screen went black. The straps released. The light shut off. The door opened. Michael was dragged back to his cell. But it wasn't the same cell. This one had no vent. No scratch marks. No sound at all. This was the deepest silence. Days passed. Or maybe weeks. Michael couldn't tell. Food appeared. Disappeared. No sound. No signal. No tapping. He tried to remember Daniel's words. Tried to repeat them in his head so they wouldn't fade. Silence sharpens ideas. But silence also sharpened fear. Michael began to hear things that weren't there. His own heartbeat sounded like footsteps. His breathing sounded like whispers. He stopped moving. He stopped thinking. Then, one night, when the silence felt endless, something changed. A vibration. So soft he thought it was imagination. Michael pressed his ear to the wall. Nothing. Then again. 3 soft taps. Michael's eyes filled with tears. It couldn't be Daniel. They said he couldn't hear. Michael waited. He didn't move. Didn't breathe. The tapping came again. Different pattern. Slower. Smarter. Someone new. Michael shook his head. This had to be a trap. The wall felt warm beneath his cheek. Then something happened that made his blood turn cold. A whisper. Not from the wall. From inside the cell. Michael. He spun around. No one was there. The whisper came again. Don't speak. Michael covered his mouth. The wall in front of him shifted. Just a little. A thin line appeared where concrete should never move. Michael stared as the line widened. A hidden panel slid open silently. Beyond it was darkness. Not cell darkness. Depth. A hand reached out. Not fast. Not violent. Waiting. Michael's heart slammed against his ribs. Breaking the silence once had almost destroyed him. But this was something else. And whatever was on the other side of that wall had found a way to survive the one rule ADX Florence was built on. No talking. No contact. No escape. The hand waited. And Michael had to decide what silence was really worth. Michael stared at the hand in the darkness. It did not move closer. It did not pull away. It waited. The prison was silent again. No alarms. No voices. Just the soft hum of air moving somewhere far away. Michael's mind screamed at him to step back. This was ADX Florence. Nothing like this was supposed to happen. Walls did not open. Hands did not appear. People did not help each other. But the hand was real. It trembled slightly, like it belonged to someone very tired. Michael took one slow step forward. The hand closed gently around his wrist. The touch sent a shock through his body. It had been years since another human being had touched him. His chest tightened. His eyes burned. Don't talk, a voice whispered from the darkness. They hear everything. The voice was low. Careful. Stronger than Daniel's had been. Michael nodded, even though the man could not see him. The hand pulled him forward. Michael squeezed through the narrow opening. Concrete scraped his shoulders. The space was tight, like the prison was trying to crush him back inside. Then he was through. The panel slid shut behind him. Silence returned. But it was different now. This silence had two heartbeats in it. They stood in a narrow space between walls. Pipes ran above their heads. The air smelled old, like dust and metal that had not been touched in years. A small light flicked on. The man stood in front of him. He was older than Michael. His hair was gray. His face was thin, but his eyes were sharp and awake. My name is Thomas Gray, the man whispered. I've been here longer than this prison wants to remember. Michael swallowed. How? Thomas raised a finger. No talking, he said softly. Mouths stay closed. Minds stay open. Michael nodded again. They moved slowly through the hidden space. Thomas knew every turn, every narrow path, every place where the walls grew thin. This prison was built in layers, Thomas whispered as they walked. Cells, tunnels, service paths, old systems they forgot about. Michael felt fear and wonder twist together inside him. You're not the first to try to speak, Thomas continued. You're just the one they caught. Michael's chest tightened. He thought of Daniel. Daniel Reed, Thomas said, like he could read Michael's thoughts. He listened too closely. They buried him deep. Michael stopped walking. Is he? Thomas didn't answer right away. He's alive, he said finally, but not safe. They reached a narrow opening and looked down into a hallway below. Guards walked past, calm and slow, unaware of the space just above their heads. They think silence means control, Thomas whispered. But silence only works if no one breaks it. Thomas pointed ahead. There's a room, he said. Old. Not used anymore. If we reach it. A sharp click echoed behind them. A light snapped on. Red. Freeze, a voice shouted. Thomas cursed under his breath. Guards filled the passage. Weapons raised. Faces hard. Michael's body went cold. Thomas leaned close to his ear. Whatever happens, he whispered, remember this place isn't perfect. Then Thomas pushed Michael forward, hard. Michael stumbled and fell through a narrow opening. He rolled across a metal floor as alarms exploded all around him. Lights flashed. Doors unlocked. Somewhere far away, a scream broke the silence. Michael looked up. He was inside a control room. Screens covered the walls. And on every screen, cells across ADX Florence were opening at the same time. The most silent prison on Earth was waking up. And it was no longer quiet. The alarms did not stop. They screamed like the prison itself was in pain. Michael pushed himself up from the metal floor. His head rang. Red light spun across the control room, painting the walls like they were bleeding. Cells were opening. Not all of them. Not fast. But enough. On the screens, steel doors slid back inch by inch. Inmates stepped out, blinking, confused, scared. Some froze. Some raised their hands. Some just stood there, unsure if this was real or another trick of the prison. Michael's heart pounded. ADX Florence was never supposed to open like this. He backed away from the screens, breathing hard. His eyes scanned the room. Buttons. Switches. Thick glass. Locked cabinets. Everything looked old, like it had not been used in years. A loud bang shook the door behind him. On the ground. Now, a guard shouted. Michael ran. He didn't think. He didn't plan. He just moved. He ducked behind a control desk as bullets smashed into the wall. Sparks flew. Smoke filled the room. Michael curled into himself, hands over his head. This was it, he thought. This was how it ended. Then the shooting stopped. Not slowly. All at once. Silence crashed down, heavy and sudden. Michael looked up. The guards were gone. Not running. Gone. The door stood open. Smoke drifted through it. Somewhere far away, men were shouting. Metal doors slammed. Boots pounded concrete. The prison was breaking its own rules. Michael crawled to the nearest screen. Cameras showed hallways filled with movement. Guards running in different directions. Inmates standing frozen in fear. Some lying face down on the floor, hands behind their heads like they had been trained to do. One screen showed a single man walking calmly through the chaos. Gray hair. Thin face. Sharp eyes. Thomas. Michael's chest tightened. You pushed me, Michael whispered to himself. You left me. But Thomas kept walking, untouched by the noise, untouched by the panic. Michael noticed something else. Thomas was smiling. A loud clank echoed behind him. Michael spun around. A heavy locker door creaked open. Inside were uniforms. Guard uniforms. Michael understood. If he stayed here, he would be caught. If he ran like this, he would be shot. But if... Another alarm wailed. This one lower. Deeper. Emergency lockdown. Michael grabbed a uniform and pulled it on with shaking hands. It didn't fit right, but it was close enough. He shoved his orange jumpsuit into the locker and slammed it shut. He stepped into the hallway. Chaos. Guards shouted orders that no one followed. Red lights flashed. Prisoners knelt on the floor crying. Others stared at open doors like they were looking at the sun for the first time. Michael kept his head down and walked fast. No talking, he reminded himself. A guard ran past him, screaming into a radio. Another slammed a door shut. Someone fired a shot into the air. Michael reached a corner and nearly ran into Thomas. They froze. For 1 second, they stared at each other. Thomas leaned close and whispered, "You did good." Before Michael could react, Thomas pressed something into his hand. A small metal key. "Block C," Thomas whispered. "Second level. Cell 214. Then Thomas turned and disappeared into the crowd. Michael closed his fingers around the key. Cell 214. He didn't know why, but his body already knew where to go. As he moved toward Block C, the alarms suddenly stopped. Not slowly. Instantly. The lights went white. A calm voice filled the prison. This facility is now under full control. Michael stopped walking. His blood turned cold. Because the voice did not belong to a guard. It came from the speakers. And it said his name. Michael Carter, return to your cell. Michael's legs would not move. The voice echoed again, calm and slow, like it was not angry at all. Michael Carter, return to your cell immediately. Every guard nearby froze. They looked up at the speakers. Some reached for their radios. Others just stood there, confused and scared. Michael's heart slammed against his ribs. ADX Florence was built so no one talked. No one listened. No one knew names. So how did the prison know his? He clenched the small metal key in his hand and kept walking. 1 step, then another. If he stopped, it was over. A guard turned and stared at him. Michael lowered his head and kept moving. The guard hesitated, then ran past him toward the noise. Michael reached Block C. The hallway was colder here. Quieter. The walls felt closer, like they were watching him. Cameras followed every step. Cell numbers were painted in black. Michael stopped at 214. His hands shook as he slid the key into the lock. Click. The door opened. Inside, the cell was empty. No bed. No toilet. No camera. Just a chair bolted to the floor and a speaker on the wall. The door slammed shut behind him. Darkness swallowed the room. The speaker crackled. "You broke the silence," the voice said. Michael swallowed. His mouth felt dry. "I didn't talk," he whispered. "You listened," the voice replied. "That is worse." A light snapped on. Thomas sat in the chair. He looked calm, clean, like he had never been locked away. Michael took a step back. "You said Block C. You said this cell." Thomas nodded. "Because this is where it ends." The door behind Michael clicked. Locked. Thomas leaned forward. "ADX Florence was not built to hold men," he said. "It was built to erase them." Michael shook his head. "Then why am I still here?" Thomas smiled, slow and thin. "Because you didn't disappear." The speaker buzzed again. "Inmate Carter has failed final compliance." The walls began to hum. Michael felt it in his bones. The floor vibrated. The air grew thick. His ears rang like something was pressing into his head. "What is this?" Michael shouted. Thomas stood up. "This is the room where silence is forced." Michael screamed. No sound came out. His mouth opened wide, but the room swallowed his voice. Panic crushed his chest. He clawed at his throat, gasping, but the air felt heavy, wrong. Thomas watched. "You wanted to know how ADX works," he said softly. "Now you do." Michael dropped to his knees. The humming grew louder. The light flickered. Then, suddenly, everything stopped. The sound, the pressure, the pain. The door burst open. Guards flooded the room, weapons raised. Thomas was gone. The chair was empty. The speaker was silent. A guard grabbed Michael and dragged him out. As they pulled him down the hall, Michael looked back at cell 214. Written on the wall, scratched deep into the metal, were 3 words. "No one leaves." Michael woke up strapped to a bed. His arms were tight at his sides. His legs would not move. A bright white light burned above his eyes. He tried to turn his head, but it was held still. He tried to scream. Nothing came out. A guard stood near the wall. The guard did not look at him. "Where is Thomas?" Michael tried to say. His lips moved, but there was no sound. A machine beside the bed beeped slowly. The room smelled clean, like metal and soap. This was not a normal cell. This was deeper inside the prison. A door slid open. A man in a dark suit walked in. He was not a guard. He did not carry a gun. He carried a folder. "Good morning, Michael," the man said. Michael's eyes went wide. The man smiled. "Yes, we know your name." He pulled a chair close and sat down. "You've been asking questions, listening when you shouldn't, following voices that don't exist." Michael shook his head. "Oh, they exist," the man said. "They just aren't inmates." The man opened the folder. Inside were photos. Michael saw himself walking the hall, standing near doors, holding the key. "How?" Michael thought. "You were chosen," the man said, like he could hear his thoughts. "Some people break. Some disappear. You didn't do either." Michael felt fear crawl up his spine. "What is ADX Florence?" the man asked. Michael tried to answer. No sound. The man nodded. "Exactly." He stood up. "ADX is a test. Silence is the tool. And you, Michael, are the result." The straps released. "Walk," the man said. Michael stood slowly. His legs felt weak, but they worked. They walked through a hallway Michael had never seen before. No cell numbers. No windows. Just long gray walls and cameras that followed every blink. They stopped at a door with no handle. The man pressed his hand to a scanner. The door opened. Inside were rows of cells, all occupied. Men sat alone. Some stared at walls. Some rocked back and forth. Some smiled at nothing. None of them spoke. Michael felt sick. "These men failed," the man said. "They talked. They fought. They screamed." Michael's heart raced. "And Thomas?" Michael whispered, even though he knew it was useless. The man stopped walking. He turned slowly. "There is no Thomas," he said. Michael froze. "There never was," the man continued. "The voice you followed. The messages. That was the system." Michael backed away. "Then who scratched the wall?" The man smiled again. "You will." The lights went out. Every cell door opened at once. The men inside stepped out. They all turned toward Michael. At the same time. And for the first time inside ADX Florence. They all spoke. The voices hit Michael like a wave. Loud. Sharp. Angry. So many voices at once that his head spun. Men shouted his name. Some cried. Some laughed. Some screamed words he could not understand. Michael covered his ears. The man in the dark suit was gone. The hallway shook as the inmates stepped closer. Michael ran. His feet slapped the floor as alarms exploded above him. Red lights flashed. Sirens screamed. Doors slammed open and shut all around him. "Stop!" a voice boomed from the ceiling. Michael did not stop. He turned a corner and crashed into a guard. The guard fell hard. Michael kept running. He didn't know where he was going. Every hallway looked the same. Every door was locked. The voices followed him. Not shouting now. Whispering. "You broke it. You woke us up. You made us remember." Michael reached a dead end. A single door stood in front of him. It was open. Inside was a small room. White walls. No windows. One chair in the middle. And a mirror. Michael stepped inside. The door slammed shut. The voices stopped. Silence returned, heavy and thick. Michael walked toward the mirror. He saw his face. Tired. Thin. Scared. Then the reflection smiled. Michael stepped back. The reflection did not. It leaned closer to the glass. "You understand now," it said. Michael's knees went weak. "This prison doesn't just stop talking," the reflection continued. "It teaches silence. It spreads it." Michael shook his head. "No, I won't." The reflection's smile faded. "You already have." The lights flickered. The mirror cracked. Michael felt something tear inside his chest, like a scream trying to escape. The speaker on the wall came to life. "Inmate Carter," the calm voice said. "Final stage initiated." The floor dropped away. Michael fell into darkness. And as he fell, he realized the voices were not outside anymore. They were inside his head. Michael landed hard. The floor was cold metal. His body hurt, but he was alive. The darkness slowly faded, and a soft white light turned on above him. He was alone. No voices. No alarms. No guards. Just silence. Michael pushed himself up and looked around. He was back in a cell. A normal ADX cell. Concrete bed. Steel toilet. Small slit of a window high on the wall. It looked exactly like his old cell. For a moment, he felt relief. Then he noticed something wrong. There was no speaker. No camera. No sound at all. Michael stood up and walked to the door. He touched it. Unlocked. His heart raced. He pulled it open. The hallway outside was empty. Lights were on, but no guards walked the floor. No footsteps. No radios. No movement. Michael stepped out. His footsteps echoed loudly. Too loudly. He walked farther, calling out without sound, his mouth opening and closing, but nothing coming out. He passed cells with open doors. Inside each cell was someone who looked exactly like him. Same face. Same eyes. Same prison clothes. Each one sat quietly, staring at the wall. Michael backed away, shaking. "No," he mouthed. He ran. At the end of the hall was a control room. Inside, screens showed every part of ADX Florence. Every cell. Every hallway. And in the center screen, Michael saw himself, sitting calmly in his original cell. Silent. Perfect. A message appeared on the screen in bold letters. System stable. Subject integrated. Michael fell to his knees. The truth finally hit him. He was not escaping ADX Florence. He was becoming part of it. The silence was not punishment. It was the prison itself. A door opened behind him. Footsteps approached. Michael turned. And the story does not end here. The footsteps stopped right behind Michael. He did not turn. He was afraid that if he did, he would see himself again. A hand touched his shoulder. Not rough. Not gentle. Just firm. Michael slowly stood up. When he turned around, he did not see a guard. He saw an older man. Gray hair. Tired eyes. Wearing the same prison clothes as Michael. The man looked human. Real. "You're late," the man said quietly. Michael's heart raced. You spoke." The man nodded. "Yes. That means I don't have much time." Michael swallowed. "Who are you?" "My name is Daniel," the man said. "I was like you. I listened. I followed. I asked why." Michael's hands shook. "So this is real. The system. The copies." Daniel sighed. "ADX Florence doesn't just lock bodies. It copies minds. When someone resists silence, the prison splits them." Michael felt sick. "Splits them how?" "One version breaks and becomes quiet," Daniel said. "That one stays in the cell. The other keeps thinking, asking, fighting." Michael remembered the men who looked like him. Sitting still, Empty. So I'm the broken one? Michael asked. Daniel shook his head. No. You're the leftover. The lights flickered. Daniel looked nervous. Listen to me carefully. They don't like when we explain. Michael leaned closer. There is only one way out, Daniel whispered. You must choose silence on your own. Michael frowned. That's it. Just stop fighting. Daniel's eyes filled with fear. No. You must erase yourself. The walls began to hum again. Daniel stepped back. They are coming. Michael grabbed him. Wait. What happens if I don't? Daniel's face went blank. His eyes lost focus. He slowly turned and walked away, stiff and quiet, like a machine. Michael shouted after him, but no sound came out. The screens in the control room turned black. One by one, words appeared on every screen. Silence is safety. Silence is control. Silence is forever. The control room door locked. Michael was alone again. And for the first time since arriving at ADX Florence, he was not sure if he wanted to escape anymore.